All right, so today we're going to be talking about teaching theme using plot. Today's lesson is going to be for English, 11th grade, and today's topic is going to be theme and plot analysis. We're going to be using Lord of the Flies by William Golding and Thank You Ma'am by Langston Hughes as two supporting texts throughout this lesson. And we're going to be using standard RL 11 through 12.2. So that is asking students to determine two or more themes of a text and analyze their development over the course of a text. So previously, students have used context clues to identify multiple themes within a text, and this will be reflected in the bell ringer, which I will get to later in the procedures. But today's learning target will be, I can determine how a text plot develops its theme. So in terms of the background knowledge of students, they have previously looked at context clues to identify theme. They have previously read Lord of the Flies by William Golding, and they've also read Thank You Ma'am by Langston Hughes. So they are familiar with both of these materials and the ability to identify theme. What we're looking at today is specifically timelining plot and its relation to theme and its development over the course of a novel. An exit slip. We are promoting individual accountability for formative assessment, obviously, because that's how we know what each individual student knows. And we're also going to be using a different text than what we looked at in our collaborative activity previously in this lesson. So I wanted to include Thank You Ma'am by Langston Hughes as our exit slip because A, it allows students to demonstrate their knowledge, and as the teacher, I know that they are not just regurgitating what they heard from classmates during the collaborative activity, and B, it kind of serves as a nice refresher for them and an attention grabber as we have been talking about Lord of the Flies the entire class period. So students will either perform one of three ways according to the rubric on the formative assessment. They may get a 0, which is a novice, a 1, apprentice, or a 2, proficient. So the exit slip asks these students to name two specific instances from the text in Thank You Ma'am by Langston Hughes that demonstrate theme using plot, which is what we looked at during the lesson that day. So students will, if they cannot identify 2 or even 1, they will score a novice. If they can identify 1, they will get an apprentice, and if they can identify 2 correctly, they will get a proficient. So what do we do with this information? Well, that depends on how a majority of the class scores. If a majority of students get a 0 or a 1, we will go back over it in whole class instruction. If most students got a 2, I would just look at the specific students that got a 0 or a 1, sorry, I misspoke, and conference with them individually maybe, or specifically understand that they need help and try to figure out ways that we can encourage peer-on-peer learning in future collaborative activities, but also student-teacher mentoring is very beneficial in terms of filling in gaps, so they just might need a little extra help. Either way, we're going to use that formative assessment and also look at student work samples to try to determine whether or not a poor score is a result of lack of knowledge about the content or lack of effort from the student. The procedures for this lesson, we are following the I do, we do, you do model. So, bell ringer, describe a moment from Lord of the Flies that demonstrates how the boys treated the island. I can trust that students will be able to think of a moment from the text that demonstrates this. However, as the teacher, when we go over the bell ringer and whole class instruction, I will be making that connection to theme for them, saying, oh, this is a moment from the plot that demonstrates this theme. I'm making that connection for them as the teacher. However, during the collaborative activity, it's we do. students will be assigned themes from Lord of the Flies and will timeline events working together. So students will be learning from their peers, but I'm also playing a supporting role in this collaborative activity. I can prompt students if they need extra help, but for the most part, my job is to support learning, but I'm not making that connection to theme for them. And then obviously the you-do is formative assessment, which is completed independently, and students will be making that connection themselves. So here are some potential challenges I found in my lesson plan. Number one, what if it's not clicking? Throughout collaborative instruction, if students are constantly raising their hands and saying, Miss Coleman, what do I do? Miss Coleman, I don't understand. Then we might need to take a step back and go back to whole class instruction. We might need to offer help in them making those connections, because if it's not clicking, it's not clicking, and we might need to take a step back. We can adapt the lesson plan to involve more teacher support. Another thing, one student is doing all the work during collaboration. These are usually your more control freak GT students who like to sort of take over the project. And I understand being a perfectionist, but the point of this project is collaboration. So, of course, I would use prompting for both that student and the other students in the group saying, hey, you guys need to work together. And I'm hoping to minimize this by having different roles that students are allowed to select within their groups as a differentiated tactic. But as a teacher, I want to keep my eyes open for this, just because when one student does all the work, the other students aren't gaining the knowledge that they need. So in terms of the strength of this lesson, I made sure to integrate different collaborative roles during collaborative instruction, because I wanted students to, self-identify with certain roles. Like, if you have a student that doesn't want to talk in front of the class, they have the opportunity to be a scribe or an artist. It kind of allows different students to work within their comfort levels, and also kind of creates more opportunity for different kinds of personalities to be successful. Opportunities for adaptation based on student performance. The teacher can play multiple different support roles in this lesson, especially during the collaborative learning part. So you can have a lot of teacher involvement or less teacher involvement and more peer-to-peer learning. Like, depending on how students do and how well students are getting it, the teacher can provide various levels of support. It also integrates creative and collaborative opportunities and utilizes multiple resources, including Lord of the Flies and Thank You Ma'am by Langston Hughes.